Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Khatamin nabiyyin shafi'il mudhnibeen. Rahmatan lil alameen. Maulana wa sayyidina Abil Qasim Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض أرواحنا له الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الإمام الحسن المجتبى عليه الصلاة والسلام اللهم صل على محمد إن أحسن الحسن الخلق الحسن. My dear respected elders, brothers, sisters, mu'mineen, mu'minat, aghayan, khaharan, sarwaran mu'azzam, azizan mukarram, it's a pleasure to be here amongst you once again. It's been about 1 year, I think, since I was last here. I think these opportunities, when we have, for example, these intervals in our lives, we have birthdays, we have anniversaries, we have, Mahe Ramzans, we have Mahe Muharrams. These are really good points in the year that Allah gives us to do a self-check. So like, as I've come here, I'm thinking to myself, okay, how was I last year and how am I this year? Has there been any improvement? Am I the same person? Have I, God forbid, become worse? Or have I managed to improve anything? You see, all of these different things that happen in our lives, this is God telling us that make some kind of self-evaluation. Think to yourself, your last birthday, your this birthday, are you a different person or are you the same old? We are about to embark upon a very, very amazing point of time in the Shia calendar. For lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, this is a very, very critical time. Ya Allah. We wish that we were actually not here at the moment. We wish we were on the road from Najaf to Karbala. I'm sure you all agree with me that if there was anywhere you would want to be today, it would be on that road from Najaf to Karbala walking towards Abu Abdullah. May Allah, if not this year, give us the tawfiq to go in future years, insha'Allah. But now we're here. And we are going to listen to the majalis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. The majalis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam are very special. The carpet on which you are seated is very special. The walls around us are very special. The speakers who come are doing their best, inshallah. The mu'mineen who are listening with full love and muhabbat of Abu Abdullah. These ayyam are very special. I want to ask you a question, Azizan. I want to ask you a question. Just think in your minds. Do you see, for example, Muharram comes, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th night of Muharram, all of us, to a man, to a woman, all of us, we immediately feel uplifted in our spirituality. We immediately feel more religious and religiously inclined. Ramadan comes, immediately we feel more religiously inclined. And we make some resolutions and we say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and it's time for me to start praying Quran and it's time for me to start praying Namaz al-Shab and I'm going to take my Namaz seriously now. Come, for example, a few days after Eid, a couple of weeks after Eid, a month after Eid, it goes down. That feeling, that jazba, that spirit goes down. After Arba'een, few days later, okay, we'll have other wafats as well. Wafat of the Holy Prophet, wafat of Imam Rada alayhi salam, all these are coming. But generally it declines. Why? Why does that happen? Why does that happen? This is the question I want you to think about. Why does that happen? A very simple way of answering that question is as follows. This is a simple, not incorrect, but very simple, simplistic. Someone may say, you know what? It's basically because I go to the mosque and I hear this Maulana speaking and he speaks some good things and I take something from that, but then I can't sustain it afterwards. This is the typical way we would answer this question, right? You come to the mosque, you listen to the majlis, you gain some points of information, some knowledge, some data, and then that inspires you a bit, and then it tapers off because then your mosque attendance goes down. So that's the very simplistic way of looking at it. Islam looks at it in a different way. The deeper aspect of this is something very, very special and very sensitive. Okay? And this is what I want to speak about today. That what is it that keeps us either on a spiritual high or makes us into a spiritual low? What is that thing? Is it just listening to words of the shuyukh and maulanas and ulama that make us into a high and then it tapers off? Is it just that? Could it be that simple? Because I don't know about you, but generally I see people, they're listening to lectures all the time. In our cars we have lectures because, data's like free now, and we're streaming all the time. We listen to Islamic podcasts. We have our Instagram feeds going on. Every 30 seconds there's someone saying something about Islam, and it's very inspiring. And so we've learned how to do these kinds of things. So why does it taper off? Why aren't we in a permanent spiritual high? This is our discussion, inshallah, for this evening, with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Azizan, Amirul Mu'mineen, he says the following. Listen to this very carefully. Amirul Mu'mineen says the following. These hearts which we have, okay? These hearts which we have, they are like containers. This is fundamental. If you want to do any progress in a spiritual sense, you must pay attention to this point. These hearts that we have are like containers. فَخَيْرُهَا أَوْعَاهَا. The best of these hearts is the largest in its amount of volume that it can receive. The biggest container is the best. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't stop sending spirituality our way. He never stops that. He doesn't stop sending His grace our way in a general sense. The grace of God is always available. The question comes, how much can your container fill? That is the fundamental question. Grace of Allah is flowing all the time. There is no stop in the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How much can you accept? How much capacity do you have? When you come to the majalis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when you come to the fasting of Mahi Ramadan, when you come to the mosque, all of these are small, small steps in increasing your capacity. Each of these is adding to the volume of your container. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, my grace is always available, but your container is too small. Your zarf is too small. Your container is too small. I'm pouring down my grace and rahmah and mercy and blessing, but you insignificant human being, you have closed your container in such a way that now it cannot penetrate inside. Take a bucket and take the heaviest rainfall you can think of. If you turn the bucket upside down, no rain can go in it because you've closed it. What we do sometimes is that we close the containers of our hearts. They are meant to be expansive. They are meant to be large. They are meant to receive more. Aba Abdullah is available in these days. Imam Hussain alayhi salam is available in these days. Someone comes to Agha Bahjat, rahmatullah alayh. That person was on his way to attending one of the majalis of Imam Hussain. That person was on the way to attending one of the majalis of Imam Hussain. Agha Bahjat says to him, Kuja miri, where are you going? He says, Miram Roze. He says, I'm going to listen to one of the lectures about Imam Hussain alayhi salam and cry for him. I'm going to one of the majalis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Agha Bahjat says, Nagu Miram Roze. Begu Miram Karbala. Agha Bahjat says, don't just say you are going to a majlis of Imam Hussain Islam. Say, I'm going to Karbala. Even if your majlis be in Minneapolis, even if it be in London, even if it be in Tehran, even if it be in, for example, Najaf, it doesn't matter. What Agha is trying to say here is that the effect of the majlis of Aba Abdullah is like going to Karbala. Because it's giving you that lesson. It's like going to Karbala. Of course, we can't say it's equal, but it's like going to Karbala. It's that same Husseini spirit. If there's a poor person in the community who can never afford to go to Karbala, will Imam Hussain alayhi salam deprive him? Will Allah on the Day of Judgment say to him, you were poor you did not get the right, you did not have the ability to go to Karbala, therefore your level is down? No. He'll say, you could have gone to the majalis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, where Ahlul Bayt were present, where their nur was available, where the grace of God was available, where your tears would have been counted, just like they are counted in Karbala. You could have done that. What we do is we close our containers. We close our capacity. We don't enlarge the heart. We make the heart very small. Now, how does the heart become large? How does the heart become small? How does the heart sometimes restrict that you don't want to do any ibadat? You felt this, right? At some points in your life. You don't feel like picking up the Quran. Namaz-e-shab doesn't happen. Namaz-e-subh doesn't happen. Other namazes are delayed. Saifa-sajjadiya, forget it. Mafati, what's that? There are times in our lives when we go through these states. And there are times in your life when you, without even having been woken up, will wake up for Fajr, for Shab. You'll do things. Qudrati, from the inside, you will feel like, let me give charity. Qudrati, from the inside, you'll say, let me help someone. Where does that come from? Is it just fluke? Azizan, nothing in this world is a fluke. In Islam, we don't believe in fluke. We don't believe in luck. We don't believe in luck of the draw. We don't believe that today the stars were in my favor. We don't believe in that at all. Everything in this world has a hisab and a kitab. It is all planned and it all has an effect. So now allow me for the rest of this lecture just to expand practically on what expands the heart and what restricts the heart. Let's have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Top of the list, sare fehrist of the thing that makes the heart restricted and small. It reduces the capacity of the heart. Upsetting one's parents. Top of the list. If you want the grace of God to finish, if you want the blessings of God to stop, if you want the tawfiq of God to stop, then go ahead and upset your parents. I guarantee those things will stop. Upsetting parents is one of the biggest ways to stop the blessings of Allah. Upsetting parents, making them angry, making them in any way upset with you, hurting their feelings, talking rudely, doing any of those things, you are basically shutting off the grace of Allah. Your heart is restricting. You will not be able to receive that grace properly. That's number one. Number two, second on the list, music. Music is also one of those things because of the industry it's in, because of what it represents. I don't want to go too much into depth on the fiqh aspects. I'm sure you all know this because, people ask about this a lot. So I'm sure, you've been told this again and again. But music is another way to restrict the heart, to close off the grace of Allah. Third, anger, gussa. Anger closes the heart. When you go into a room, when you go into your home, when you go into a gathering, when you meet someone who is angry, how do you feel afterwards? Don't you feel all down and stressed and a bit down and anxious? Your energy levels drop. What is that telling you? That is your heart telling you, your spiritual heart telling you something is wrong here. And how beautiful is it when we walk into our families and into our homes and our spouses, our children are cheerful? How does it make you feel? When your son or your daughter speaks to you in a nice way, when they have a laugh and a joke with you, when people lift your spirits, when you go into a gathering and people are happy and cheerful, how does it make you feel? It lifts you. It boosts you. Why? Because this is one of the things where Allah has placed His blessing in cheerfulness. Imam Hassan alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. His name is Hassan. This is a hadith in which he's used the term Hassan 3 times to describe something. Imam Hassan says, Inna ahsan al-Hasan al-khulqul Hasan. Indeed, the best of the best, indeed, the best of the best is to have a cheerful disposition. Cheerful. Smile. Be nice to people. Leave people with a good word. You go into a shop, a store, as you guys say, we say shop, you say store. You go into a shop or a store, you buy something, leave the person with a nice memory of you. Say something nice to them. Let them make their day for 5 minutes. Let them bring a smile to their face. Someone does a favor for you, thank them in a nice way. Someone does something to you, if you have the means and if it's in the culture of the place you're in, maybe you give a tip or something that person thinks, wow, today I got something extra. When an older person speaks to you, they're lonely, they don't have anyone at home, no one speaks to them, they've whatever, they've got health issues, whatever issues, and you leave them with a nice memory. Ya Allah, you are expanding your heart. All of that happens and it makes your heart expand. Grace of Allah, grace of Allah, grace of Allah. Another one, to expand the heart, is remembrance of Ahlul Bayt. This is why Azizan, during Muharram, during Ramadan, during Ayyam Fatimiyya, why do we experience a peak and then it dries off later? Because we are remembering Ahlul Bayt. As much as you can throughout your day, recite Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. As much as you can recite Salawat, as much as you can recite Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. As much as you can speak to Imam Zaman. As much as you can speak to your Imam. See how your heart expands. Another one, Quran. Huge, huge, huge impact upon the heart from Quran. Mu'min has 2 times with the Quran. 2 times are very effective for the Quran. If you can't do these 2 times, don't worry. Pick any time of the day, but I'm just saying these are 2 very highly effective times. Number 1, in the morning, before you begin your day. Could be before Namaz-e-Subh, could be after Namaz-e-Subh, whatever you regard as the beginning of your day. Recite a few verses from the Quran. And 1 at the end of the day. Why? Beginning of the day to give you barakat and blessings throughout your day. The end of the day, why? Because unfortunately, the weak creatures we are, we've been through the day, we've done some wrong things, we've said some wrong things, we've told some lies, we've done some ghibat, gossip, God forbid, all of these things have been done by us. End of the day to purify you once again. See how the heart expands. See how your tawfiq increases. See how your barakat increases. See how your rizq increases. See how your ilm and amal increases. Where does this come from? It comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are not the creators of these things. Don't ever think, because I did this, this good thing happened. No. Allah, Allah, Allah. Anything good, Allah. This is the grace of Allah. When you have this kind of expansive heart, then you see how your life changes. Just see how your life changes. Someone comes to Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He says to him, Mawla, I want you to teach me Ism A'zam. What is Ism A'zam? Who can tell me? Ism A'zam. Anyone knows? Ism A'zam. Surely, I'm sure you know, but you're being very humble. Ism A'zam is the greatest name of Allah. Ism A'zam has been described as when you have Ism A'zam, that greatest name of Allah, you can do anything. All the doors open for you. You can do anything. You become basically Sahib Kun Fayakun. You can do anything at any time. Whatever you say will happen. Whatever you want will happen. Ism A'zam is not a name in the terms of, it's not like a bunch of letters which form a word. Ism A'zam is a spiritual position that you reach. When you reach that spiritual position, you are given Ism A'zam. Therefore, Allah trusts you so much that now you can do Kun Fayakun. Whatever you want will happen. You have a lot of power. Listen to this. The companion of the sixth Imam comes to him and says, Mawla, I want you to teach me Ism A'zam. Imam Sadiq says to him, I want you to do something for me. He says, yes, tell me. He says, I want you to go to such and such bridge. Go to such and such bridge, sit there for a while, look at what happens, and then come and report back to me. He says, okay. He goes, he sits there. Generally speaking, he just sees the normal coming and going of everyone. And then he sees something a bit weird. He sees that there's a man, a very old gentleman, struggling to walk even. And this old gentleman, on his back, he's carrying wood, right? So whether he's going to sell it or he bought it and he's taking it home, we don't know. He's carrying this big bundle of wood on his back. That's making his movement even more difficult. So this old man, bichara, he's struggling to cross the bridge. Behind him, a young man comes on a horse. The bridge was very tight. Only one person only single file you could go across. If there's two people next to each other, they would struggle, especially a horse. So the young man, he's forced now to go behind the old man. Okay? So old man is in front, young man is behind. The young man starts to shout, Yalla, yalla, come on, how long? How slow do you want to go? Come on, I have places to go, I have things to do. Starts shouting. The old man, even if he wanted to go any quicker, he couldn't. Because he's old and he's carrying a big load on his back. So he continues in his pace. The young man gets annoyed. He comes up behind him and he gives him a kick on the back. This old gentleman, he was struggling before anyway. With this kick on the back, now he falls over. He falls on his face, basically. The wood on his back scatters around him. The young man, he doesn't care. He just rides past and goes off to wherever he was going. This old gentleman now slowly gets on his feet, slowly picks himself up, dusts himself off, wipes the bruise and the blood from his face, gathers the wood again, makes a bundle again, puts it on his back again, and starts trudging off again. This person who's watching, this companion of Imam Sadiq, he feels very hurt. Anyway, he goes back to Imam Sadiq. Imam Sadiq says to him, what did you see? He says, Mawla, this one incident really hurt me. There was a man, he was old, he was struggling, he is carrying wood. This younger guy came from behind him, kicked him, was so impatient, so rude. He fell on the floor. That guy didn't even care, doesn't even get down to ask, how are you? I'm sorry, this, that, just rides off. This guy has to pick himself up and put the wood again. Imam Sadiq asks him a question. He said, Khub, tell me, if you had Ism A'zam at that moment, what would you have done? He said, Mawla, I would have taught that young man a lesson. I would have done something to him that he would never do anything like this again. Imam says, shall I tell you something? That old man that you saw carrying the wood falling on his face was one of our Shias, and he himself knows Ismail Azam. He himself knows Ismail Azam. But his capacity is so much, he would not use Ismail Azam on this kind of personal issue. Whereas you, if you had Ismail Azam, the reason why you're not given Ismail Azam is because your heart is so small. Anything happens, you'll say, kun fayakun, destroy him, destroy her, finish this one off, burn this village, kill this town. What is this? This is not the way of A'immah alayhimus salam. A'immah, imagine, do we think that they didn't have power? Do we think that they didn't have power over this world? Do we think that they didn't have Ismail Azam? That if they wanted to, could they not have changed things using this miraculous Ismail Azam? But that's not what their role was. Their role was something else. Otherwise, just do Ismail Azam right now, kun fayakun, everyone becomes Muslim, khalas. That's not the way this world works. So Azizan, when we want to benefit from these majalis which are to come, whether it's these majalis here in your beautiful center, or other majalis somewhere else if you are listening to them, whatever it may be, to have a large capacity of the heart is fundamental. That is what will make these majalis effective or ineffective. Please do not think and don't get obsessed with the smaller things. The speaker has to be such, the language has to be such, the topic has to be, all of these are important in their place, but they're not the main thing. The main thing is how expansive is your heart. That is the main thing. We pray to Allah for tawfiq, inshallah. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, we just commemorated his wafat a few days ago. Imam Hassan was that Mazloom Imam. We don't have regarding any of the other members of Ahlul Bayt that their janaza left the house but then was forced to return back to the house. That their janaza left the house for burial but it wasn't buried, it had to be brought back. That the kafan was put on Imam Hassan alayhi salam, but then the kafan turns red before he is buried. But for Imam Hassan we have this. Arrows being fired into the coffin or the body of Imam Hassan. The body being returned back to the house. This was a big musibat, a big masaib of Ahlul Bayt. But Imam Hassan himself says to Abu Abdullah, when they were together and they were discussing each other's circumstance of shahadat, Imam Hussein begins to cry on Imam Hassan. Imam Hassan says, وَلَكِنْ لَا يَوْمَ كَيَوْمِكَ يَا أَبَا Abdullah. Hussein, you cry over me, but there is no day like your day, O Abu Abdullah. Nothing compares to your masaib, to your shahadat. What they will do to you, nothing can compare to that. Inshallah, we ask Allah to bless our community, to expand our hearts, to increase our tawfiq, inshallah, with the blessings of Abu Abdullah, Matam Hussein.